Let's be honest. If you walked into a pub and told me you were thinking about getting a Novated lease on a Toyota Camry or a Ford Ranger, I'd probably slap the beer out of your hand. Seriously. I'd look you in the eye and tell you that you're about to voluntarily sign up for a financial mugging. For decades, Novated leasing in this country has been a bit of a rort. It's been a playground for people earning massive salaries, sold by guys in shiny suits who use confusing acronyms to hide the fact that they're charging you 12% interest and inflating the price of the car with fees that would make a bank blush. For the average Aussie battler, or even the average high-income earner, it was usually a trap. You'd save a bit of tax, sure, but you'd lose it all in fees and fringe benefits tax. It was a zero-sum game where the house always won. But something happened. The rules of the game changed. And for once, they actually changed in our favor. Right now, there is exactly one scenario, and I mean only one, where a Novated lease isn't just okay. It is, mathematically speaking, the single greatest wealth hack available to a PAYG employee in Australia. It is the only legal way to buy a $60,000 asset using 100% pre-tax money, ignore the GST completely, and have the ATO essentially subsidize your daily commute. I'm talking, of course, about the electric vehicle fringe benefits tax exemption, the EV loophole. If you are planning to buy a petrol car right now, turn this video off. Go buy a second-hand Corolla and be happy. But if you have even remotely considered a Tesla, a BYD, or any EV under the luxury car tax threshold, you need to listen very closely. Because if you buy that car with cash, or a standard car loan, you are literally setting fire to tens of thousands of dollars. I'm Lachie, and today we are going to audit the EV lease. No bank jargon, no sales pitch, just the brutal math on how to drive a new car for the price of a used one, and stick the bill to the taxman. Let's dive in. First off, I want to validate your skepticism. If you've always thought car leases were a ripoff, you were right. You're not crazy. You're just observant. Let's look at how the old world worked. The traditional Novated lease on a petrol or diesel car is a nightmare of complexity. You have your car finance, your running costs, and then you have the big, ugly monster in the room, FBT fringe benefits tax. See, the Australian Taxation Office, in their infinite wisdom, decided long ago that a work car is a benefit, and benefits must be taxed. Usually, this tax is 47% on the grossed-up value of the benefit. To avoid getting hit with this massive tax bill, you had to use something called the employee contribution method. Basically, you had to pay a chunk of the lease costs with your after-tax salary, money that has already been rated by the ATO, just to offset the FBT liability. It was a balancing act. You'd pay some pre-tax, some post-tax, and by the time the leasing company added their management fees, their documentation fees, and their inflated insurance premiums, the savings were often negligible. You might save $2,000 over 5 years, but you were locked into a contract that was harder to get out of than a gym membership. So, for years, my advice was simple. Buy a 3-year-old Japanese car with cash. Put your money in your offset account. Don't touch a lease with a 10-foot pole. But then, the federal government got desperate. They needed to get more EVs on the road to meet emission targets. And they realized that Aussies are pragmatic. We don't buy cars to save the polar bears. We buy cars that make financial sense. So, they passed the Treasury Laws Amendment Electric Car Discount Bill. This legislation did something unheard of. It took the FBT liability for eligible electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles and reduced it to zero. Zilch. Donut. This means you no longer have to make those painful post-tax contributions. You don't have to balance the books. You can pay for the finance, the electricity, the tires, the servicing, and the registration entirely from your pre-tax salary. It turns your car expenses into a tax deduction. It's the equivalent of your boss saying, "Hey mate, instead of paying you your full wage and letting the government take a third of it, how about I just buy you a Tesla Model Y, pay for all the charging, and we just lower your taxable income so you pay less tax?" It is a complete inversion of the standard financial advice. And that is why we need to run the numbers. Because the difference isn't a few $100. It's enough to pay for a deposit on an investment property. Right, put your thinking caps on. We are going to do a brutal audit. I want to compare two scenarios. We are going to look at Dave. Dave earns $120,000 a year. He's a standard Aussie professional. He lives in the suburbs, drives to the CBD a couple of times a week, maybe heads down the coast on the weekend. He does about 15,000 kilometers a year. Dave wants a new car. He's looking at a price point of around $65,000. Scenario A, the petrol trap. Dave decides he's not ready for electric. He wants a nice, new petrol SUV. Maybe a high-spec Mazda CX-5 or a Subaru Outback. Drive-away price, roughly $65,000. He doesn't have 65 grand in cash lying around. Who does? So he gets a secured car loan. Interest rates are high right now. Let's be generous and say he gets 7.5% over 5 years. His monthly repayment is around $1,300. That is $1,300 coming out of his bank account after tax. To get $1,300 in his hand, Dave, who is on a marginal tax rate of 34.5% including the Medicare levy, had to earn nearly $2,000. Then there's the running costs. Fuel is $2 a litre. Insurance is $1,000 a year. Rego is another $1,000. Servicing is $500. He's spending another $400 to $500 a month on running costs. Again, paid with after-tax dollars. Over 5 years, that petrol car is going to cost Dave a fortune in real wage terms. He is bleeding money. And at the end of 5 years, he owns a car that is depreciated by 40 or 50%. Scenario B, the EV loophole. Now, let's look at Smart Dave. Smart Dave looks at a Tesla Model Y or a BYD Seal. Similar price point, roughly $65,000. He sets up a Novated lease. Because the car is an EV and below the luxury car tax threshold for fuel-efficient vehicles, which is currently sitting just under $90,000, it is FBT exempt. Here is what happens to the math. First, the GST. When a leasing company buys the car, they claim the GST back. That $65,000 car, it instantly becomes a $59,000 car. You are financing a cheaper asset from day one. Next, the finance payments and the running costs. The electricity, pre-tax. The tires, pre-tax. The insurance, pre-tax. The car wash, pre-tax. Every dollar Dave spends on this car reduces his taxable income. Instead of earning $120,000 and being taxed on $120,000, his taxable income might drop to $100,000 or $95,000. Let's look at the take-home pay impact. This is the only number that matters. How much money lands in your bank account each fortnight? In scenario A, the car loan, Dave pays the loan and petrol out of his pocket. His disposable income drops significantly. In scenario B, the EV lease, the money comes out before it hits his account. When you crunch the numbers, and I've seen hundreds of these quotes, the difference is staggering. For a $65,000 EV on a salary of $120,000, the tax savings over a 5-year term can range from $25,000 to $35,000 compared to paying with a car loan. You are effectively getting the car for a 30 to 40% discount. You are buying a brand new Tesla for the price of a second-hand Corolla, simply because you are playing by the government's new rulebook. And here is the kicker, the running costs. In the petrol scenario, if petrol prices spike to $2.50 a litre because of some geopolitical crisis, Dave cries. He pays more. In the EV lease scenario, not only is electricity cheaper, but even that cost is tax deductible. You are expensing your fuel. It is an arbitrage. You are arbitraging the difference between your marginal tax rate and the cost of the car. The higher your salary, the better this gets. If you are earning $180,000 or more and you are in the top tax bracket of 45%, this deal is obscene. You are saving 47 cents, including Medicare levy, on every single dollar you spend on that car. Almost half the car is being paid for by the tax savings. So, if the math is this good, why isn't everyone doing it? Why are people still lining up to buy petrol SUVs with 9% interest loans? It comes down to 3 psychological traps. Trap number 1. The used car bias. As Aussies, we've been drilled with the idea that new cars are a waste of money. And generally, that is true. As soon as you drive a Commodore off the lot, it loses value. So we feel smart buying a 3-year-old car. But in this specific instance, the tax incentives on a new EV are so powerful that they override the depreciation curve. A used car doesn't get these incentives in the same way. The math flips. The smart move of buying cheap and used becomes the expensive move because you're paying with expensive post-tax dollars. You have to unlearn the Aussie battler instinct of buying a clunker to save money. Trap number 2. The leasing company phobia. I get it. Leasing companies can be dodgy. They try to upsell you on everything. tire and rim insurance, paint protection, gap insurance. They pack these things in because that's where their margin is. When people see a quote with a $500 management fee and a weird interest rate, they freak out. They think, I'm being ripped off. And you know what? You might be getting ripped off on the fees, but the tax savings are so massive that they swallow the fees and you still come out ahead. Think of the leasing company fees as the entry ticket to a very exclusive club. Would you pay a bounce of $50 to get into a room where there's $5,000 on the floor? Yes. Yes, you would. Don't cut off your nose to spite your face. Hate the leasing company if you want, but take the deal. Trap number 3, the EV anxiety. Oh, but Lachie, what if I want to drive to Alice Springs without stopping? What if the battery dies in 5 years? EVs have no resale value. This is the big one right now. Resale value panic. We've seen Tesla slash prices, and we've seen used EV prices drop. People are terrified that in 5 years, their car will be worth nothing. This is a valid fear. But here's the reality of a lease. It acts as a hedge. Because you bought the car effectively at a 40% discount through tax savings, the car can depreciate much harder than a petrol car, and you still break even. If you buy a petrol car for 60 grand and it sells for 30 grand, you lost 30 grand. If you get an EV lease that saves you 30 grand in tax, and the car's value drops to 20 grand, you're still in a similar or better position because you never paid the full freight to begin with. The taxman absorbed the depreciation risk for you. Okay, you're convinced. The math works. But don't just run out and sign the first piece of paper a dealer shoves in your face. There is a right way and a wrong way to do this. Here is the Aussie strategy for the EV loophole. Step 1. Check the LCT threshold. The FBT exemption only applies if the car's value is below the luxury car tax threshold for fuel-efficient vehicles. For the 2024 to 2025 financial year, that number is $91,387. If you go out and spec up a Tesla Model Y Performance or a massive Kia EV9 and it tips over that limit by $1, you lose the exemption. You are back in FBT hell. Do not cross that line. Stay in the safe zone. Model 3, Model Y RWD or Long Range, BYD Seal, MG4, Polestar 2. Keep it under the limit. Step 2. Self-source the finance if you can. Most employers have a preferred leasing provider. And often, that provider is lazy. They will quote you an interest rate of 10% or 11% because they think you're a captive audience. Challenge them. Ask if you can bring your own financier. There are specialized EV finance leasing companies popping up that offer much sharper rates. Even a 1% difference in the interest rate saves you thousands over the term. If you can't switch providers, negotiate. Tell them you've seen better rates. Squeeze them. Step 3. Strip the junk. The leasing quote will come back loaded with extras. Comprehensive insurance, usually inflated. Get your own quote from the big insurers like NRMA, AAMI, or Allianz, and tell the leasing company to use that bill. Platinum warranty. Bennett. EVs have fewer moving parts. You probably don't need the extended warranty on top of the manufacturer's 7-year warranty. Paint protection. Do not let them finance a $1,500 ceramic coating that is actually just a guy with a spray bottle. Get it done yourself later if you really want it. Keep the lease clean. Finance the car and the running costs. Nothing else. Step 4. Understand the residual value, the balloon. This is where people get caught out. A Novated lease is not a rental. At the end of the term, say 3 or 5 years, you do not own a car. There is a residual value payment required to take ownership. The ATO sets this percentage. For a 5-year lease, it's roughly 28% of the car's cost. You need to have a plan for this. Option A. Pay the balloon and keep the car. Option B. Trade the car in, pay off the balloon with the trade-in value, and start a new lease. Option C. Refinance the balloon. The danger zone is if the car's value crashes below the residual value. If your residual is $20,000 but the car is only worth $15,000 on the market, you are in negative equity. However, because of the tax savings we talked about, you have a massive buffer. Even if you have to top up a few grand, you are likely still tens of thousands of dollars ahead compared to the petrol option. Step 5. The PHEV warning. A quick note on plug-in hybrids. PHEVs. The government is phasing out the FBT exemption for PHEVs. It's got a sunset clause ending on April 1st, 2025. If you start a lease before then, you are grandfathered in. But if you are watching this video late, or you're on the fence, go full electric, BEV. It's safer for future resale and the policy support is stronger. Don't get stuck with a Betamax technology when the world is going streaming. Let's wrap this up. I am not a car guy. I don't care if you drive a Tesla or a beat-up Hilux. I care about the numbers in your bank account. Normally, the system is rigged against the salary owner. We get taxed before we even see our money. We get hit with GST when we spend what's left. We are the cash cows of the Australian economy. But right now, there is a window where the government has handed us a legitimate, legal way to opt out of that system for our second biggest household expense after our mortgage. The EV Novated lease is an anomaly. It's a glitch in the matrix. It allows a school teacher to drive a better car than a property developer and pay less for it. If you are stubborn and you insist on buying a petrol car with a consumer loan because you don't like the look of an EV, or you think Musk is a tosser, that is your right. But know that it is a luxury you are paying a very high premium for. You are paying the stubborn tax. For the rest of us who just want to get from A to B comfortably, safely, and with the most money left in our pockets for a beer on Friday Arvo, the choice is a no-brainer. Review your salary. Check the LCT threshold. Get a quote. And stop letting the taxman drive your car for free. I'm Lachie. This is about being smart with your money, not emotional. If you found this breakdown useful, and you want to know how to apply this same ruthless efficiency to your superannuation or your mortgage, make sure you stick around. There's plenty more fat to trim from the system yet. Catch you in the next one.